There's over 5,400 items in Terraria, and in order to 100% Journey Mode, I have to research every last one of them. That means getting every painting, banner, block, furniture set, weapon, accessory, everything. So I generated a drunk world and embarked on my most tedious challenge to date. In order to unlock the ability to duplicate an item, we first have to research it. The number of copies you need to complete the research varies based on the item, but it's anywhere from 1 for accessories, tools, and weapons, all the way to 400 for walls. But once you've put up that initial investment, you now have an infinite supply of that item. Admittedly, there's no practical use for having an infinite number of tin short swords besides, well, getting it for completion. But for the other items, like say the silver coin, infinite silver turns into infinite gold, which then becomes infinite platinum coins. So now we can buy anything we want. But to buy things, we need NPCs, which is where the next Journey Mode power comes in. In Journey Mode, we have the ability to alter time. We can freeze it, instantly set it to 4 different times a day, and even accelerate it by 24 times its normal rate. So, after just a few seconds in real life, we had our first NPC arrive. The merchant just had a few items to buy, as most of his shop consists of items that we could get without him, but I was able to get several unique items from the party girl, and also infinite explosives from the demolitionist. Using those explosives, I started looking around the underground for gear and new items to research in general, which is basically everything at this point in the run. I think it would take me a solid 30 minutes just to say the names of all 5,000 plus items, let alone how I obtained them. So, to save us all some time, I'm going to stick to covering the difficult and or interesting entries, like this seaweed. This is a pet item that has just a 2% chance to spawn in ivy chests in the jungle. There was a good chance that this item wouldn't have even been on this world, so this was a very nice find. Now, for those wondering why specifically we landed on the drunk seed for this run, there's actually quite a few benefits. For starters, this seed naturally generates both world evils, which means easy access to banners and item drops without the need to create an artificial biome in Hardmode. We also get access to both sets of pre-Hardmode ores, but rather than mining out all of them individually, there's a much easier way to get them. Shimmer is an incredibly useful resource in normal playthroughs, and it only becomes more impactful in a run where you need to obtain every single item. For instance, in the early game after unlocking just the one platinum ore entry, we can shimmer that ore down to unlock the rest of the ores in the shimmer chain. Each of these ores can then be converted into bars, which in turn unlocks the corresponding weapons, tools, and an armor set. Thanks to Shimmer, we were able to knock out nearly 100 different entries in just a few minutes. But we're not done yet. If we throw in our researched magic mirror, we get diamonds. Diamonds can then shimmer down to the other 6 gemstones, which can then be used to make large gemstones, hooks, staves, and much more. And we've really only scratched the surface of Shimmer's capabilities in this run. From there, I decided to take on our first boss. Every boss drops potions, a treasure bag and expert plus, a relic and pet in master mode, and a trophy. After killing the boss 3 times for the treasure bag research, typically rare items like the 1 in 33 binoculars are actually quite trivial. Beyond that, the master mode relic is guaranteed and the pet is a 1 in 4. So, generally speaking, the only holdup is the 1 in 10 trophy. But thankfully this one dropped on the second try. The next day I researched a few buff potions, and after researching 2 herb bags, you get access to every single herb. So I was already able to make quite a few buffs. I was also able to craft a garland. Didn't even know this existed, but we'll research it. This would be far from the last item I would say this about. While I was fairly happy with our roughly 200 items researched after 3 hours of play, we still had over 5,000 to go, and it was quite overwhelming. But I tried my best to not think of that overarching number and instead focused on smaller goals. The first of which was to get some stronger gear. There's quite a few weapons in Terraria that are significantly stronger than others, but to keep them balanced, they're often consumables and rather difficult or time-consuming to gain in large quantities. But in Journey Mode, this method of game balance is completely thrown out the window. Oh, and for those of you that have played Journey before, you're probably wondering why we haven't been using God Mode in boss fights. And why we have it set to Master Mode, because we have complete control over the difficulty as well. But to make things a little more interesting, I decided not to allow God Mode for bosses until after the first 3 kills. This way, we've met the requirements for the treasure bag and have earned our right to God Mode if we still need more items like the trophy, for instance. In this case, we didn't quite get the trophy, but I'll farm this out once we have stronger weapons. But before proceeding to Hardmode, there were a few things I wanted to finish up. There are a couple items in this game that can only be obtained in pre-Hardmode, the first of which is the Grey Zappinator, a weapon rarely sold by the traveling merchant. While we could world hop for this one at a later date, it makes more sense to go for it now on the main world and continue researching items while we wait for him to arrive. I started crafting furniture sets, vanity items, wooden weapons and armor, anything that I could craft with some basic crafting stations and materials. After a few minutes of crafting, we got our first merchant, and unsurprisingly, there was no Zapinator in his shop. And to my dismay, his inventory wouldn't change when I tried skipping to the next day. I can still, of course, speed up time to get a new one to arrive, but it could have been so much faster. We then got our first blood moon, where I had an excuse to try out this enemy spawn rate slider that Journey Mode gives you. This slider makes farming out the over 1,000 different item drops in this game somewhat tolerable. It makes more sense to farm most of these items out in Hardmode again when we have better weapons, but I made an exception for this event and farmed out the money trough. At this point, I was struggling to think of new items to craft with our current materials, so I figured I'd get to work on some of the critter entries while we wait on that Zapinator. We'll be needing 5 of every regular critter and 3 of every golden one to get their entries. But before I could even worry about that, I got interrupted by slime rain and a very easy king slime fight, and afterwards we got our next traveling merchant spawn. I had no trouble at all getting rare drops from the merchant, as evident by these 4 very rare items in his shop, which, by the way, are all rarer than the Zapinator, but I couldn't seem to find the only item locking us out of hard mode. My chat eventually reminded me about the Peddler's Satchel, which is an item that will permanently increase the number of items that the traveling merchant will sell. To get it, you simply have to throw the Peddler's hat into the Shimmer. But before I could throw in that hat, we found our first golden critter. What do you mean, gold bunny? There it is. Dude, that's huge. Okay, first golden critter. Research that one. Research the satchel. There we are. No! Getting 2 basically back-to-back like that is insane because each of these critters had just a 1 in 400 chance of being golden. We just need 1 more golden bunny until we've completed that entry. Or at least that's what I thought going into this challenge. But my chat and I had a chance to theory craft while waiting for all of these merchants. You see, if we make a terrarium and combine it with a gold bunny, we get a gold bunny cage. Instead of needing 3 copies to complete the research for these critter cages, we only need 1. Research that. And then supposedly, if we then shimmer these gold bunny cages, we should get gold bunnies out of them. Hopefully. This one shimmer trick alone easily shaves off hours from this run. Combine that with the spawn rate slider and the golden critters were so much easier to get compared to the ones in my bestiary video. Just a few minutes after the golden bunny, I found this golden ladybug. It's there? Back? Oh, thank God. Oh my God. Oh my God, it's there. Yes. And a few minutes after that, oh, we got a squirrel. I see it. I see it. It's just too easy. I then finished off the gem critters and found a golden bird, but at that point I had been checking traveling merchants for over an hour now, and we already had most of the golden critters I could spawn around town. So I decided to progress a little more and defeat Skeletron for the void bag and other dungeon drops. But before we can do that, we need to get the bone key, an item that drops from the dungeon guardian, which is an enemy that will no longer spawn after Skeletron has been defeated. Yes, it would be faster to world hop for this entry once we have better gear, but I wanted to try and get as many entries as possible in this world before resorting to world hopping. And for those wondering why we don't just enable God mode, loot the dungeon, and save Skeletron and the Guardian for later, it's because defeating Skeletron is a prerequisite to getting the other pre-Hardmode exclusive item, which I'll talk more about a little later. With that cleared up, how do we defeat the Dungeon Guardian in pre-Hardmode? Well, there's quite a few ways to do it. We could use Grav Potions, the Yrimir Hoik strat, or a minecart track, which is what I ended up going with. It's a quick setup and is very consistent. The hardest part was just getting up to speed before the Dungeon Guardian could reach me. Oh, it was close, chat. It was close. So it took a few tries, and I even noticed a glitch that I thought I had never seen before in this game. Whoa. That was a crazy bug. That was like a frame-perfect recall death. My recall went off on the same frame that I should have died from the Dungeon Guardian hit. So while I got the death message and the Guardian despawned, my character was fine, no tombstone dropped, and I still had all my gold. At first, I thought I had never seen this before, but after checking out that 10-year-old video from Yrimir again, I was shocked to see this exact bug be documented in a video that I'd already watched a decade prior. But after a few more attempts, I got up to speed in the minecart and was able to let the bee-nades fly. All 5,500 of them over the course of 25 minutes. Yeah, this wasn't efficient by any means, but it was the best I could come up with in pre-hard mode. Afterwards, the Dungeon Guardian's little bro was easy enough to deal with, and we could now venture into the dungeon. I wouldn't realize it yet, but the dungeon would be one of the hardest areas to 100% in this game, and probably not for the items you're thinking of. But for now, I researched a few paintings, the alchemy and bewitching tables, the golden keys, opened some chests, and left the rest for later. I then defeated the Brain of Cthulhu to get the final Void Bag ingredient. The Void Bag is one of my favorite items in a normal playthrough, but I especially wanted it here because it can store our many infinite buffs and save us a bunch of inventory space. And that's where I left off on day 1. After nearly 7 hours of play, I had researched all of these items. For day 2, I plugged our save into terrariachecklist.com to see that we were 12.77% through this playthrough, which is honestly quite a lot better than I thought it would be. Now, due to the sheer volume of items to research, to save time I decided against checking every item off one by one until much later in this run. Instead, I'll be using this handy upload save feature to update the percentage every half hour or so. On day 2, while waiting for the traveling merchant to spawn, I built some more houses for the other NPCs and bought out their stock. Afterwards, my chat informed me that for some reason, luck affects how many items a traveling merchant sells. I don't know why this mechanic impacts so much of the game, but I'll take it. I researched a gnome and went for some luck potions. In a normal playthrough, I usually pass on luck potions because I find that they don't last long enough to be worth the effort, but in journey mode, after catching 5 oysters and spam opening a few hundred of them, we can very easily get pink pearls and greater luck potions. Then we can get a galaxy pearl and also throw a platinum coin into the shimmer for even more luck. And that seemed to do the trick, because a couple merchants later and we had our Zappinator. There are, of course, plenty of other items that we still need from the traveling merchant, but we can get them all in hard mode. But before we take down the wall of flesh, I decided to work on some angler quests. Realistically, I could do these at any time, but I also wanted to get some more infinite buffs, and many of those potions require different fish as a material. So I figured it wouldn't be too bad of an idea to do both at the same time. There are 41 different species of quest fish, and 31 of them are accessible in pre-hard mode. These quest fish are luckily much easier to get in journey mode though, because we can toggle rain, freeze our time of day at 4:30 AM, and use infinite fishing potions to maximize our fishing power. So it generally only took a few casts to get our quest fish. As for the research, we need to catch 2 for the entry. The game prevents you from finding another quest fish if you already have one in your inventory, but it doesn't check to see if it's in your trash, so while it's a little awkward, we can complete each fish after just 1 quest. We also need the mini quest rewards from the angler, so before moving on to the next quest, we make sure to hand one in. And getting that next quest is where things get significantly easier. Rather than waiting several minutes in a bed for the next quest, we can simply switch it to the next day with 2 mouse clicks. And with the help of some pylons and teleporters to get to each location, the quests were going by very quickly. It still took us about 2 hours, but it wasn't nearly as miserable as I thought it was going to be. There we go, chats. All 31 quest fish that are available pre-hard mode. At this point, we were still missing a few quest rewards, but I decided to worry about those later when we're working on the hard mode quest fish. Now, if I were to move on from fishing at this point, we'd be just fine, because I finished the quests and had my buff fish. But instead, I said, let's go finish off the crates, and in doing so, signed up for nearly 2 hours of pure time loss. You see, every crate in Terraria has both a pre-hard mode and hard mode variant. We of course have to research both. So I figured we should get the pre-hard mode crates before entering hard mode, so we won't have to world hop for them later. However, I failed to realize that you can just shimmer the hard mode crates down to the pre-hard mode variants. But on the bright side, while I was wasting my time fishing up those pre-hard mode crates, I did manage to catch all of the fish that I had yet to research. We can also get a few items from opening the crates themselves, fish up some unique blood moon catches, and finally catch some trash to round out every fishable item in pre-hard mode. With that, I finally could make all of those buff potions. Infinite Potion of Return is so good. I won't lie, I think that was the first time I had ever crafted this potion because I never lava fish, but having a stack of these was easily one of my favorite journey mode luxuries. With that, I set my sights on the rest of the golden critters. We were able to get a golden worm very early on thanks to infinite can of worms, so we're currently at 5 of 13. The gold frog was found after just 1 minute of waiting in the jungle biome, so it was off to the ocean next to target the golden seahorse, which is one of the hardest ones to obtain. The 10x spawn rates didn't seem to boost the seahorse too much for some reason, so our minecart farm wasn't much better than it normally is. I got fairly lucky here and found it after about 241 catches, but had luck not been on our side, we could have been here for much longer. By contrast, the golden dragonfly was incredibly easy and only took a few minutes to spawn in after setting up this farm. For the golden grasshopper, I figured this one would take the longest because unlike the rest of them, the spawn rate slider has 0 effect on how many grasshoppers we see, as they don't spawn on their own and instead just have a small chance to appear after destroying tall grass. Then you have to wait around for it to grow back before trying again. Combine that with the 1 in 400 odds, and I'm sure you can see why I was worried about this one. However, I failed to factor in the huge benefit that is time controls. With a long enough skybridge and time acceleration, most of the tall grass grows back by the time you reach the end of the bridge, so there's actually 0 downtime. And those greater luck potions seem to be really putting in the work, because once again, after just a few minutes into the search... Oh, nice, it was just on the ground. Can you imagine I missed it? Easy. Butterflies have a much more complex spawn mechanic compared to most other critters. But all you have to do in Journey Mode is set the wind speeds below 20 miles per hour, skip through days near a town until you notice a lot of butterflies spawning, then freeze time and wait for a golden one to show up. Alright. Oh my god, we already got it. For the golden water strider, I used our bottomless water bucket that we got from the angler to float around our town, cranked up those spawn rates, and... let's get rid of that. Oh my god. It's here. It's already here. Do you guys see it? Oh my god, it's right in front of my face. Okay, that's insane, guys. We got 12. Only one remained. And it's one that I was very much underestimating because in my bestiary video, it showed up very quickly while I was farming something else entirely. After raising the spawn rates, popping a hunter potion, and walking around our underground town, we were getting flooded with critters. Just not the right one. Okay, we already got a gold bunny. Not quite what we're after. After checking the wiki, I found that unlike most critters, town NPCs will actually reduce the spawn rate of mice. However, just below that, we can see that spawns in front of living wood walls are not affected by NPCs. So, the plan was to travel to our living wood tree, descend into the underground, and create a little farm using those natural living walls. That way, we could safely add in NPCs without preventing mice from spawning. As it states on the wiki, this doesn't directly increase our odds of spawning the critter, but it helps out indirectly by preventing enemy spawns, leaving more room on the spawn table for critters. Yeah, this is better, I think. Though it still took quite a long time because I didn't bother to fill in the nearby caves, so we had a ton of goldfish and bunnies still spawning around us and flooding that spawn cap. About half an hour later, I finally fixed that issue, at least somewhat, and was rewarded just a couple minutes later. Oh, it's there! It glows! I didn't even know that. Okay, we got it. GG. With that, I traveled down to the underworld and started building a platform. We have infinite water walking potions, so it's not actually for the boss fight. Instead, it's to give enemies a place to spawn so we can get the final Pyramid exclusive item, the Cascade Yo-Yo. Only after Skeletron has been defeated, it has a 1 in 400 chance to be dropped from the various enemies in Hell. If we progress to hard mode, this drop is instead replaced by the Hellfire Yo-Yo, so we need to get this now. But with 10x spawn rates and plenty of luck buffs, it was no trouble at all, and it dropped after about 5 minutes of farming. Let's go to hard mode, gamers. Okay. Easy. Now that we're in hard mode, our main goal is to reach Moonlord. So our first stop is the ocean biome to farm out some pirate maps, because we now have access to the coin gun, and when combined with an infinite stack of platinum coins, you get one of the strongest weapons in the game. There's just one problem. This item is extremely rare, and with our prayer mode loadout, I was just limping my way through this pirate invasion event. And remember, I still have to defeat this event 2 more times before I can throw in god mode. So I spent a few minutes fishing up 5 titanium crates so I could duplicate them all and get enough adamantite for a new armor set, which helped reduce the amount of time wasted on death screens. On the second attempt, I found a couple rare drops in the lucky coin and gold ring, but they're nowhere near as rare as the coin gun. It should be noted that all of the rare items from this event have a much better chance of dropping from the Dutchman. The coin gun goes from a base 1 in 4,000 drop to a 1 in 50, but considering you only see a handful of Dutchmen every event, odds are this is going to take a while. But surprisingly, at the tail end of the 4th invasion... let's do that. Gun? What? Oh, we got it! How did I not see that? I just started a new one. I just assumed we didn't get it. Let's go, dude. Okay. Now, to get a true sense of how powerful this coin gun is, take a look at how fast it shreds Duke Fishron in Master Mode. How much damage we've already done? That was one phase, chat. Generally, the reason to fight Duke Fishron so early is for its strong weapon drops, but as you can see, we have that department covered. This time around, we're here for the movement options. The Duke Fishron wings are some of the best in the game, and the Shrimpy Truffle mount is incredibly broken when you have control over the rain. It becomes the fastest mount in the game and also grants you a 15% damage bonus. Next up were the mech bosses, and I started with the twins, and as you can see, this boss had no chance against our coin gun. Afterwards, I crafted a ton of new entries with the Howler bars, including a weapon that would, believe it or not, temporarily eclipse our coin gun. You see, the only downside to the coin gun is that it doesn't pierce at all. So for a boss like Destroyer, the Superstar Shooter makes a lot more sense. Oh, I love this game. While we couldn't defeat Prime quite that fast, the coin gun still made short work of the boss, which means we're now ready to head to the jungle. I had 24 times the game speed, but even still, it took about 20 minutes to get a Plantera bulb. But in the meantime, I was able to finish researching chlorophyte, which gave us a good chunk of entries, and also was able to research life fruit for the extra health. Usually I mine out a larger area for phase 1 Plantera, but with the coin gun in hand, I figured it wouldn't be necessary this time around. Golem was the first boss to actually challenge us on Hardmode, partially due to the confined space, but also because of a very unfortunate misinput. Should be good there. Maybe I'll... Oh, we have a grab. Oh my god. I picked up a grab potion on the way to the boss by accident, and it cost me the fight. And it's a long way back to this boss, so I decided to leave the rest of the kills for later, just in case we have another mishap. Instead, after defeating Golem, I made an above-ground mushroom biome for the truffle NPC, crafted true mid armor, farmed out the sniper scope, and then went after the Empress. We defeated her twice at night for the regular drops, and once during the day for the Terra Prisma, which is a weapon that will become incredibly useful once we get to the farming stage of this run. The Lunar event as a whole was pretty typical once we swapped over to the Vortex Speeder, and the only thing I had to worry about was recording the credits theme with a music box. I don't think I've ever used these before, and I wouldn't be shocked if a good chunk of you watching haven't either. But if you equip a music box in an accessory slot, it has a chance to record the current track that is playing. What's important about this credits theme is that it only plays once per world after your first moonlord kill. So if you miss it, you'll have to world hop for it later and kill every mandatory boss again on that second world just to get another chance. It plays for quite some time, so realistically, as long as you remember to do it, you can't miss it. But despite talking about it right before the fight, I completely forgot about it and would have missed it if not for my chat. Should we run it again? Oh, music, yes. I already forgot. I was about to go back into it. Yeah, there we go, music box, Journey's End. I've been recording a few of the tracks as I progressed through the game when I remembered, but there are 88 of them in total, so we still have a ton more to record later on in this run. With the infinite fragments, I was able to make infinite moonlord summons, so we can avoid having to fight the pillars again, for now. 2 moonlord kills later, and we now had access to infinite treasure bags and the entire moonlord loot table. But there's a few items I was most excited about. The last prism and rainbow crystal staves are incredible weapons to use while farming, and the celebration mark II is a godsend for excavating your world. I then crafted all the luminite armor sets, weapons, and tools, and with that, we've beaten the game and we're not even 1/3 of the way to 100%. So we gotta get going. The first thing I did after defeating Moonlord was swap over to a summoner build to make farming a little easier. But before we get to said farming, I decided to try and craft as many new items as I could with the current resources that we had. And because there are so many niche crafting stations, I made this all-in-one crafting area that I saw on the wiki. After using the artisanal loaf, as long as I'm standing in the middle and have the prerequisite ingredients, I can craft any item in the game. This will save me a lot of time and effort wandering around trying to figure out the correct crafting station. The Terraria checklist website splits the items into different categories to try and keep you sane, and the walls category looked pretty easy, so I focused on that one first. I started off with basic ingredients like wood and stone, and of course if I ever noticed something that I still had to research in the crafting window, I would also take care of that as well. Stone can combine with every ore, every gemstone, and every celestial fragment to create a corresponding block, and each of these blocks also have their own walls. Then for whatever reason, Hellstone ore in particular had like 4 different wall types to craft. Near the bottom of the list, I noticed a bunch of statues that I could craft. While most of these have to be found randomly in houses within the underground, all of the numbered, lettered, and critter statues can thankfully be crafted. The painter had a ton of wallpapers to buy, and while I was at it, I visited the rest of the NPCs to buy out all of their items. Or most of them anyway. We'll have to come back for a few items that are only available during particular moon phases or events. As I was crafting more walls, I noticed a few furniture items showing up as well. So I decided to add the basic furniture ingredients to my inventory so I could start working on those. And dear God, there are a lot of furniture items. By my count, the craftable furniture sets alone account for 766 items, or about 14% of all items in this game. So while I work through this mountain of items, consider subscribing. I've got loads of Terraria videos for you to check out, and also several 100% videos just like this one. I'm not much of a builder, so I haven't crafted like any of these walls before, but man do builders have it good. The sheer number of blocks, walls, and furniture sets in this game is astounding. Not to mention, all of them can be combined with the different paints to create a brand new look, which is amazing for Terraria and all the builders out there, but it makes for a very tedious 100% journey character. And if I didn't have a checklist or wiki to reference, I'm convinced I'd never find some of these. For instance, if you throw Luminite Brick into the Shimmer, you'll get a new block called Cosmic Ember Brick. Or maybe you'll get the Heaven Forge Brick. Or perhaps the Lunar Rust brick. You see, there are 8 different Shimmer results that correspond to the 8 different moon phases. Which, don't get me wrong, this is really cool, but with how obscure they are, I bet a lot of you watching didn't even know about them. After a solid 5 hours of crafting, we have researched basically every wall and a good chunk of extra items in the process, and have nearly doubled our overall completion. But we're not done yet. I then focused on the projectile category because I figured that would be an easy one to check off. However, this category had far more items than just your typical ranger ammo. We've got critters, pets, tons of golf balls, several kites, and much more. I got this category to 77% complete, but decided to save the rest for later because quite a few of these required us to go quite far out of our way to get. So next up was the armor category, though a massive chunk of this actually just belonged to vanity sets. I defeated the Eater of Worlds to get Demonite ore, crafted the corresponding armor set, tools, and weapons, before doing the same with all the Hardmode ore sets. The Claw of the Air had a ton of vanity sets to pick up, some of which were only available during certain moon phases, so once again, I was finding myself feeling very grateful for journey powers. And I was able to craft a few more sets as well before moving on to the crafting section, which is where things really started to slow down. A lot of these entries were one-off items, and some of them were much harder to find than expected. For instance, the webbed chests and its contents were seemingly nowhere to be seen in this world. I was under the impression these chests weren't that rare, but I found spider nest after spider nest, and none of them had one of these chests. We can excavate our world extremely quickly thanks to the Celebration Mark II, and yet it still took over an hour of searching before we found this thing. I don't know if this was just a drunk world quirk or if I was getting really unlucky, but this part was rather frustrating. On the bright side, I made some good progress on the statues and the painting grind, which is another area of the game I was not at all looking forward to, but we'll get into that a little later. Afterwards, I farmed out a good chunk of the solar eclipse, loaded up on the many strange dyes in this game, and found one of the rarest items in the game. Oh, that's huge. Okay, we got the slime staff. I was thinking we'd have to farm this out specifically later on, but we'll take that. With that, I turned my attention to the weapons. Once again, I was feeling grateful for the checklist because I completely forgot some of these weapons even existed. I don't think I've ever made holy water, and if I did, I definitely never realized it was a weapon. And so, 10 hours after defeating Moonlord, we have gone from 30% all the way to 70% completion. While I really liked our pace, we still have a long way to go. Next up was enemy farming. To start things off, I summoned the Pumpkin Moon, made it to wave 15 to trigger the Halloween event, and researched the goodie bags. The Unlucky Yarn and Bat Hook are the 2 rarest drops to look for here, but with infinite goodie bags, they don't exactly feel rare as we can open up the expected 150 very quickly. It took several hundred more presents than goodie bags to find everything because there are 8 different drops that are rarer than the Unlucky Yarn. But again, this only took us about a couple minutes longer to do. So in just 8 minutes, we had gained a very respectable 1.5% completion. I then decided to finish up all of the boss trophies. On the way to Moonlord, I had fairly decent luck when it came to the trophies, as I already had 8 of the 19. I went after Queen Slime first, and instantly realized that I made the right call waiting until post-Moonlord to farm these out, because it took 27 kills to get our first 1 in 10 trophy. The rest of the trophies, however, were coming in really fast. Hey, there's a trophy! We're getting very good luck here. Eventually, I found out that the twins drop 2 separate trophies, so I had to go back for Spasmatisms. But no matter which twin I defeated first, I could only get the Retinazer trophy to drop. This is a little crazy, hey? This is now my 40th twins fight, excluding the 3 we did before this. Oh my god, stop giving me the Retinazer trophy. Had I tried to farm out the trophy as soon as I'd reached the twins, this would have taken me easily over an hour for this one entry alone. Got a brute. There it is. One of the more annoying trophies to get is Cultists, because after every attempt, you have to then deal with Pillars and Moonlord before trying again. I really wanted to get this one early, because I don't know if I could handle 50 Lunar events. Oh my god, chat. First try. I later realized we weren't actually done yet, because I still needed the Master Mode pet, but a 1 in 4 is a whole lot better than a 1 in 10. And we still need to farm out the Pillar enemies for banners, so it's not like we're wasting time on them yet. And thankfully, on the next attempt... Yeah, there we go, we got it. Okay, so with that, I sat at each pillar with 10x spawns until I had every banner, and then started farming Moonlord for the final boss trophy. Hey, there it is. But we're not quite done with trophies yet, because we still need the event trophies. Fortunately, event trophies are generally much easier, because the mini-bosses spawn frequently, and in this case, the trophy drop rate is way higher. After getting the trophies, I moved on because I kind of just assumed that I had every drop at this point, but sadly, this would be far from our last Frost Moon. Up next was the Martian Madness event. The Martian Saucer Trophy has the typical 10% drop rate, but again, they spawn quite frequently, so it wasn't the item that was holding us back. Instead, it was the 3 former Martian Saucer drops. The removal of these items from the Martian Saucer loot table is overall a great change, because most of the time you're looking for the weapon or mount from this mini-boss. However, what's not great is that they made these drops ridiculously rare. They have just a 1 in 800 chance to drop from most of the basic enemies. So it took 17 Martian Madness events to finally get all 3 of these drops. I'd already gotten the Flying Dutchman trophy, and there's no trophy related to the Goblin Army, so the last one that we had to get was from the Old One's Army. And it's probably the hardest trophy to get in the game. Unlike most other bosses where you can instantly summon them in, to fight Betsy, you must first reach Wave 7 of the Old One's Army. And getting through these waves is a big slog, because compared to most events, the rate at which enemies can spawn is incredibly slow. And sadly, our 10x spawn slider has zero effect here. Even with post-moonlord gear, it took about 4 to 5 minutes per attempt. Which might not sound too bad, but multiply that by the expected 10 Old One's armies, and we are gonna be here for a while. Of all the trophies in this game, this is the one you want to get on your first try. Oh my... We also somehow managed to get the Master Mode pet, so at this point, we just need 2 more kills for the treasure bag, and we're done with Betsy. But we weren't quite done with the event, because now that we have all the trophies, it was time to farm out the enemy banners. To be honest, I thought we'd already have the banners from this event by now, but sadly, the Old One's Army banners require way more enemy kills to obtain. We're talking anywhere from 2 to 20 times the enemy kills. So in the end, I spent about an hour and a half on this event alone. To farm out the surface enemy banners, I built a small platform of conveyors in the sky just below where harpies would start to spawn. This way, the only spawn location available for enemies is just off the screen to the left, and perfectly in line with the last prism beam and rainbow crystal staff. With the help of the bestiary, this whole process wasn't too bad actually. It separated each enemy into different categories by biome, it kept track of how many kills we had so we could easily tell which banners we still needed, and it also provided a list of drops so we could double check that we weren't missing anything before moving on to the next area. And with a 10 times spawn rate slider that also stacks with the water candle battle potion, we were processing enemies incredibly fast. All we have to do to get the other biomes is simply add in enough snow or mud blocks and block swap the end of our conveyors. Occasionally I would be forced out of the farm because certain enemies wouldn't want to spawn up there, but again, with all of our spawn rate buffs and endgame summons, it wouldn't be for too long. The worst section by far was the blood moon fishing enemies, as the best you can do to speed up these spawns is to use the chum caster. So this section took a good half an hour, but after that, it was smooth sailing. Eventually, I finished up the surface area, and before heading underground, I worked on the event banners. The Goblin Army was very fast, we just needed the Goblin Warlock banner, which thankfully only requires 25 kills as opposed to the usual 50. I thought I already had all the pirate drops from back when we farmed out the coin gun, but it turns out we were still missing a couple vanity pieces, which makes sense because there's 7 pieces in total, and all of which are 1 in 500 from the basic enemies. But I got our last piece pretty fast, and we only spent about 10 minutes on this event. I spent another 10 minutes on the solar eclipse getting the Izor banner and a few rare painting drops, and up until now, none of the events had really caused us much trouble. But then we reached the Frost Moon. The banners were of course no harder to get than any of the other events. Instead, it was a few regular drops that were holding us back. If I were to ask you which drop was holding us back, you'd probably say the reindeer bells, or maybe the baby Grinch's mischief whistle. But with a 6.67% chance in oh god, this is hardly going to stall us for very long. It's not a weapon, not a pet, nor a mount. Instead, it's the Elf Vanity set that has a drop rate of 0.5% or 1 in 200 from specifically zombie elves. And unlike the Scarecrow Vanity set from the Pumpkin Moon, the drop rate for the elf set doesn't increase as you progress through the waves. And remember, zombie elves don't spawn during every enemy wave. In fact, they only appear in less than half of them. So the best way I found to farm them was to play out the first 5 waves before resetting it with journey powers and trying again. It takes us about a minute to clear those first 5 waves, and that nets us about 35 zombie elf kills. So if you're thinking that doesn't sound that bad, well, I didn't at first either after getting my first set piece after just 10 minutes of farming. Ooh, there's one. Elf pants. However, that 1 in 200 drop rate doesn't exactly paint the full story, because now that we have the pants, we're only looking for a shirt and hat. So at this point, our odds of getting something new is more like 1 in 300. Hey, hold on. One more, just a hat. And now that we're down to just the hat, our odds of getting specifically the vanity piece that we're looking for have now dropped to 1 in 600. Oh no, we got the pants again. It's the wrong one, game. That's the wrong one. It is rough. How long have we been doing this? Are you joking? We got another shirt. Is that another one? Did we just get another one, or am I losing it? To be fair, I got very unlucky here, as this elf hat had no business taking 2,400 enemy kills. Yes! Okay, we're done. We're done. But with that, I can move on to the significantly more chill Frost Legion, which only took a couple minutes. And from there, it was time to head underground. Building the underground farm took a little more effort because I had to excavate around a platform, but with the Celebration Mark II, this process wasn't bad at all. The traditionally difficult or rare banners like the one from the Nymph and Rune Wizard weren't too bad with their crazy spawn rate buffs, so it was mainly the rare drops that were holding us back. But they didn't for too long because post-moonlord there's a 1 in 14 chance for the Lantern Night event to occur, which will grant the player a 0.3 luck bonus. If we then freeze time, this event makes it extremely easy to permanently max out our luck while farming. So for a drop like the Rod of Discord, our odds go from 1 in 400 to effectively 1 in 289. Oh! Well, there's the Rod of Discord, okay. Because of the sheer volume of drops and banners to get, the underground still took a good 5 hours. But to get every enemy drop and banner from these areas that quickly is honestly insane. Because the bestiary rewards you with the universal pylon, completing the entire thing is mandatory to 100% journey mode. But having just farmed out every enemy already, that's not a big ask. Which just leaves dog. We are 99.81% complete here. There's dog. Hello, dog. Bark, pet, and 100% done. There we go, gamers. Universal pylon. So in the past 12 hours of enemy farming, we gained a total of 6%. Which looks terrible on paper, but don't be fooled. We had just cleared a massive hurdle. Afterwards, I focused on a few items that are unlocked from NPCs after obtaining a high enough golf score. So I set up some golf cups at the bottom of a elevator, and after just a few putts, we had enough. The golfer also sold different paintings based on the moon phases, so we quickly grabbed those. And from there, I decided to finish up the angler quests by catching the 10 Hardmode quest fish. And oftentimes, it took longer to get the quest for a new fish than catching the fish itself, which of course only got worse as the pool of new fish decreased. We have, I believe, one more quest fish. Maybe we can get it first try here. I would be so grateful. Nope. It took 8 minutes straight of cycling quests to get the last fish. It's over. Okay. Well, we now had every quest fish and quest reward. We're sadly not quite done with fishing yet because, as you might recall, I still need to get those hard mode crates. Plus, we still needed some rare fishing drops like the Lady of the Lake, so it took another 40 minutes, but we've got all the crates. I think it's time to craft, right? I started with the weapons category, which was already 96% complete, and crafted the Zenith, Chick Yo-Yo, Axe Regrowth, and a sword called the Fly Meal. 5 stink bugs and a gold or platinum broadsword crafted in honey. It makes sense that I have never seen this before. This weapon will come in handy very soon, but before we get to that, I grabbed the biome chest weapons and also the chests themselves, triggered the Halloween event, and farmed out the bladed glove and bloody machete. While I was at it, I also grabbed the extra Halloween vanity sets from the Claw of the Air and a few other NPCs. And from there, it was time to take out that fly meal and pay some NPCs a visit. The fly meal is the only weapon outside of the rotten eggs that can deal damage to NPCs, so it makes the process of farming out these weapons much easier. Thanks to our time controls, they respawn very fast, so most of these NPC drops were pretty easy to get. With that, the only 2 weapons that are left to obtain are the Teragrim and Waffles Iron, but we'll worry about those a little later. In the meantime, we're moving on to the armor category. Again, most of this category is actually vanity, so to start things out, I threw a sandstorm in a bottle that I'd crafted into the Shimmer to get the Pharaoh's Mask. This world sadly didn't generate a pyramid, so we won't be able to get the carpet or robes until we start world hopping. Luckily, most of the other vanity sets can be crafted with basic materials like silk and thread from the Claw of the Air. And there were also some very niche ingredients like the leather item, which has been in the game since 1.0.4, but I can't even remember if I've crafted it before because its only use is to make the archaeologist set. Silly sunflower set. I don't think I have ever seen this before in my life. Purchased from the Claw of the Air while a party is active. Okay. Silly sunflower. There's also balloon animal. Party balloons. Right on. Mushroom set. How screwed are we? What are the odds of this? So I gotta look for mushroom biomes with the house in particular. I don't think we have many of those. But I told myself that's alright, because with our Celebration Mark II, it will be easy enough to get. But I could not have been more wrong. Okay, I'm feeling good about this one. This one looks good. What? How is this possible? Oh my god. It's just outside. Why do you do this? I searched all over our world through countless mushroom biomes, but for some reason, this world just refused to generate a glowing mushroom chest. I was starting to think this was again a weird quirk of Drunk World seeds, because I don't remember these being remotely this rare, so I just decided to save this set for when we started world hopping. But on the bright side, I now had all of the statues that could be randomly found in the underground, and a solid chunk of the paintings too. Next, I decided to craft all of the 1.4 community contest vanity sets. I really hope they do this again sometime, because these are easily some of the coolest sets in the game, and the community vote was super fun to take part in. We have 99.33% of the armor, so we can go on to the projectiles. We had 92% of these already, and a good chunk of the remaining items were their various tombstones. And I cannot believe it took me until this playthrough to put 2 and 2 together, but the gravestone that drops when you die is not entirely randomized. There's a normal looking set of tombstones, and then a golden set. If the player has more than 10 gold in their inventory upon death, they will always drop a golden tombstone. And if they have less, they will drop the normal ones. Because we got infinite platinum coins almost instantly on this world, I already had most of the golden ones, so we just had to remove that platinum to finish off the normal variants. I then saw that we were missing the Crimson Bunny Kite, which makes sense because it's a 4% drop from an enemy that only spawns during a blood moon, and only during windy days. But of course, both of these prerequisites are very easy to achieve in Journey. There it is. Oh, that's awesome. The final item in the projectile category was the water gun, which is a rare item sold by the traveling merchant, which I managed to get while working on the next category. At 62%, we had a ton of accessories to research. However, it's not as bad as it looks, because most of this percentage is made up by the ridiculous number of accessory combos in this game. For example, this obsidian skull combines with 5 other accessories to create 6 extra unique items. Not to mention the Terra Spark, Ank Shield, and cell phone trees, or the 15 different string colors. We had nearly all of these ingredients already, and if not, there was a good chance we could just get them via the Shimmer. That is, until we got to the music boxes. If you are wondering how there could be 88 music boxes in the game if there aren't nearly that many Terraria tracks, it's because this number includes both the base Terraria soundtrack and also the Terraria Otherworld soundtrack. By default, the Otherworld soundtrack plays in our Drunk World, but we can easily toggle it to the original if we talk to the party girl. So I filled my inventory with music boxes, traveled around to the different biomes, and fought all the bosses and events to get every music box. This process wasn't too bad, but somebody please tell me why they decided to randomize the music box delay before successfully recording music. Sometimes it'd be pretty instant, and other times I'd be sitting there for a full minute just waiting for it to record. Thank God I'm not on console though, because according to the wiki, you can be waiting there for up to 10 minutes. In the end, it took a full hour to finish off these music boxes, but on the bright side, it gave me plenty of time to grow out my beard. The gentleman's beard is an accessory that can be bought from the stylist, but it's not just your standard vanity piece, because every 12 minutes, it has a 1 in 9 chance to grow. Just make sure you're actually wearing it and it's not in your vanity, because otherwise it won't grow. The beard has 3 different stages, all of which have their own entry to be researched. This was the first time I'd ever bought this accessory, and it was probably the accessory that I enjoyed collecting the most. It's just a flying carpet. We're 99.71% on accessories, so we could now move on to the crafting category. It looks like the only items we're missing are all of the different fruits. To get these as quickly as possible, I planted a ton of trees on our sky bridge, 24x time, and started traveling back and forth and hitting each tree once with an axe. To get the other biome fruit, we just contaminate this bridge. There we go. We're done the fruit, which means that besides a handful of items that we have to world hop for, all that remained was the behemoth that is the miscellaneous tab. This category consists of paintings, furniture that we missed, decorative banners, and much more. So I got to work and started with the furniture. Like, I didn't even know you could scroll on this screen. That's insane. Okay, let's start from the top. We finished the furniture about 45 minutes later and had gained a solid 4% from it. And because we had finished the crafting section, we now had all the necessary materials to make every craftable item in this miscellaneous tab. But at about 96% overall completion, we ran out of craftable items, and our progress slowed down considerably. I spent about 15 minutes searching our entire underground desert for the desert minecart, but came up empty-handed. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a few furniture sets that cannot be crafted and must instead be found naturally, which certainly slowed things down. And then of course, we still have not found the dirtiest block yet, despite our world looking like this. So I decided to give that a crack after finding the hell furniture. Wow, okay, we already got it. That took about like, what, 20 seconds? But we're not done excavating yet, because I still needed to check any enchanted sword shrines for Teragrim. This weapon has just a 1 in 50 chance of dropping from each sword shrine, so unsurprisingly, we didn't find it in this world, and we'll have to world hop for it. Just like we'll have to world hop for the last 2.82% of items. There are a few areas we have to check in every world hop, starting with the dungeon. Okay, by the way, this is a green dungeon, which is kind of the one dungeon we don't need, but I did miss the piano. I found a couple of new paintings in this dungeon, but we struck out on the piano. The next area we have to check is the desert for a pyramid, and the underground desert for some exclusive paintings and a minecart. There's the minecart. Done. We still need a few more paintings from there, but I think we've basically uncovered all that. So we're off to hell. We've already finished the obsidian furniture set, but we're still missing a painting called Shining Moon and the decorative banners. There are 6 different variants that can spawn in Hell, and only 3 of them can spawn on any given world. Which means that there's a chance that we get only dupes, which is exactly what happened on this first world. But thankfully, it wasn't a total waste of time because we were able to grab that last painting. From there, I started searching for sword shrines. For those unfamiliar, they can only spawn in the outer thirds of your world, and will generally spawn in the surface layer, so it doesn't take too long to search for. Up to 3 shrines can generate on medium worlds, though most of the time you'll see 1 or 2, or even none. We ended up finding just the 1 on this first world, but of course, no Teragrim yet. So, the last thing to check for was the mushroom biome chests, and before long... It's real, chat. First we check the painting. Old miner, we got that one. Minecart. Okay, we still need 1 more. Alright. Is there enough? No way, dude. Double? Double? Hold. It's too good to be true. It's too good to be true. No! Not the minecart. Why? Why are there so many minecarts? I sadly wasn't able to find the toad set, and from here on out, I decided that I won't go out of my way to find it until after we're done with the dungeon, because there's a small chance that we'll run into the glowing mushroom biome while searching there anyways. In the next world, I wasn't able to find any new paintings from the desert, but we did get a new dungeon color, where I found a solid chunk of the pink furniture set. The only enchanted sword shrine in this world was a dud, and it was looking like we were somehow going to get 3 hell banner dupes once again, but thankfully the 3rd banner was new. On our 3rd world hop, we got another green dungeon, so we could finally finish off this set. Under 2% left to go, chat. It's happening. But before checking for the rest of the items in this world, I fought Wall of Flesh, all the mechs, Plantera, and then Golem, because I noticed that I was still missing a painting called the Martial Lisa, which is an item rarely sold by the traveling merchant, but only after you've defeated the Martians. You might think this would be faster to do on the main world, where we've already defeated the Martians, but the main world has a major drawback. You see, the traveling merchant always sells exactly 1 painting, and because we've also defeated the Frost Legion and Moonlord on that main world, that introduces 6 unwanted paintings to the pool, which would drastically decrease our odds of finding the Martial Lisa. So we built a house for 2 NPCs so that the traveling merchant can spawn in 24x time. And while we check for the rest of the items in this world, we can return potion at any time to see if the traveling merchant has the painting. I sadly was not able to find any new hell banners, enchanted sword shrines, or any mushroom chests. So besides this 1 desert painting that I found, this world was starting to look like a complete dud. So I was very happy when I got the green light to leave this world. Yes! Martial Lisa! Okay, we don't have to stick around in this world anymore. Okay, desert. We need the pyramid really bad, so hopefully this is the one that gives it to us. Kinda looking promising. Let's take it. Yes, it is looking promising. Okay, this is our first pyramid of the run. We need the banners. I think there's 3 banners. In terms of the drop, we get the magic carpet, which is totally fine, because this can be shimmered. We should get the last remaining pharaoh set piece. Yes. Unfortunately, we just had the 2 banner spawns here, so we still need 1 more from another pyramid. I managed to find another hell banner as well, which means just the obsidian watcher banner remained. On the next world, we found another pink dungeon. I'm not sure why we can't find the blue one, but that's okay because we need a dresser, sofa, and a bathtub. All 3 of which we found in this dungeon. So all that's left from the dungeon are the exclusive paintings and the blue furniture set. And after finding this obsidian watcher banner, we're also done with hell. I then went back to the main world to craft some moss related items that I'd missed before world hopping to into our first secret seed. On the Get Fixed Boy seed, we need a couple items. Theocram's Razor summoning item, and Waffle's Iron, which is a reward from Medusa. Additionally, during a blood moon on this seed, the princess sells the Teragrim, which admittedly is a much more efficient way of getting this item compared to the 1 in 50 enchanted sword shrine drop that we've been going for. However, because I've never actually gotten the Teragrim before, I wanted to do it the quote-unquote legit way and get the sword shrine drop. Yes, it's slower, but at a rate of 1.21 sword shrines per world, we'll hit odds for this thing after about 41 worlds. And once we no longer have to check the dungeon and desert every time, the whole process shouldn't be that bad. Surely I will not regret this decision. On the next world, we found the last pyramid banner, and while the dungeon refused to be blue, while looking around for paintings, something caught my eye. The best glowing mushroom biome. Look at this. Wait, it actually might be. Wait, it might be. It might actually be the best one. Come on, come on. I have opened like 6+ chests at least. It should be a 50-50. Yes! Oh my god. Yes, no more glowing mushrooms. I knew we should wait for this. Officially 99% completion. And somehow this world still had more to give. Was that it? Yes! Okay. Huge. Which means we no longer need to check the desert. Oh, and for those wondering how we got to 99% so fast after just a couple of items, it's because I ignored some items on the Terraria checklist website. The website keeps track of item IDs, which include several non-researchable items like the closed void bag or the extra variants of the shell phone, so getting rid of these items from the list gave us a much more accurate look at our completion. It took us 11 worlds for some reason to find our first blue dungeon, and while we got a good chunk of completion from it, we were still missing a few blue furniture pieces by the end of it. And of course, it took another 6 worlds to get our next blue dungeon. Thankfully, this time around we were able to finish off the furniture set, and I was also able to get 2 of the 3 remaining dungeon paintings. So the last item that we needed from the dungeon was the Cerebral Mine painting, and on our 19th world hop. And there it is! Let's go. But at this point, I noticed a problem with our checklist. We only have 5 items left, but somehow, according to our checklist, we still had over 0.5% to go. The math was not mathing, so I tried toggling off the research mode on the website to show the unresearchable items, and then I tried selecting one of them, and that seemed to do the trick. Not sure why that worked, but with 5 items remaining, that puts us at 99.91%. One of these remaining items was surprisingly the Ladybug minecart, which can be found in living wood chests. There's a 10% chance to see a minecart, and then a 50-50 on whether it's a sunflower or a Ladybug minecart. I guess it kind of makes sense that it took 25 worlds to find, but I never would have guessed that the Ladybug minecart would be one of the last items that we would research. Then we have a couple of paintings that can be randomly found in the underground. We occasionally will see some underground paintings while searching around for sword shrines, so I decided not to focus on these until after we found Teragrim, just in case one of them somehow shows up before we get the sword. But what are these 2 paintings anyway? Well, the first one is the Aurora Borealis. It's not particularly rare or anything, but with how many paintings there are in this game, it makes sense that we were still missing at least one of them. Just like how it makes sense that we were still missing the Waldo painting. This one is particularly rare. In fact, it's quite easily one of the rarest items in the game. According to the wiki, for any given painting in the underground cabin, there is a 32.5% chance for it to be a 2x3 painting. And out of all of the 2x3 paintings, there's only a 0.49% chance for it to be Waldo. Combine the two and you get a 0.16% chance, or 1 in 625 paintings. While far-fetched, technically there is still a chance that we see it while going for Teragrim, so again, we're not going to focus on this painting until after we find that sword. But since the start of the run, this Waldo painting was the item I was dreading the most. Now, about that Teragrim. It should be noted that you can just save scum for it, because the drop you get from the shrine isn't predetermined on World Gen. But at that point, I figured you might as well just go buy it from the princess on the Get Fixed Boy seed. So instead, I tore up world after world after world, looting sword shrine after sword shrine until world number 45, where I decided to call it for the day. We had been world hopping for over 6 hours now, and for all I knew, this Teragrim wouldn't drop for another 50 worlds. So, while I had hoped to finish off the run that stream, I decided to leave it for the next day. So we're going to go on to 46. Hopefully we get this pretty fast today. We've already put in the numbers. This is a 1 in 50 drop. I felt like I had somehow earned an early Teragrim because I had already done over the expected 41 worlds. But as I would soon find out, just because you hit odds for something doesn't mean you're any more likely to get it now than when you started. Holy shit, we're at 60. That's awful. It'd be so cool to find Waldo during this though, like before Teragrim. I was half joking when I said this, but with each passing world, the idea of finding Waldo first was starting to become less and less of a pipe dream. 90. Oh my god. Hey, it's the big 100. How have I made 100 worlds? I'm tired, guys. I'm tired. I had spent another 5.5 hours that day and made absolutely zero progress. For those who haven't witnessed it, this is our progress today. And by progress, I mean this is how much time we've wasted today. We have 40 there, 60 there, and 8 there. Final shrine. Here we go. All right. Well, I will be back tomorrow for the same thing. We're gonna do the exact same thing tomorrow for another who knows how many hours. But on the next day, after 136 world hops, it finally happened. No way! Could you... It's Waldo! We found it before Teragrim. What do you mean? Oh my god. Wow. Could you imagine for a moment how much time I would have wasted had I searched every world for Waldo first before going for Teragrim? To be clear, this had absolutely no business showing up first. Not only did this thing have to spawn in the tiny fraction of underground houses visible while searching for shrines, but we also had to dodge the Teragrim for 136 worlds. I was really hoping to see Teragrim on that same world, but of course, the sword shrine search continued, and it would take another 50 minutes before we could cross another item off the list. Oh, is this our painting? Yeah, nice. There's an entry. Okay, we don't have any paintings left. Crazy this was after Waldo. 99.96% chat. We are down to just 2 items. We still have the giant Shelly banner, which I'm not sure why I left this one so late, to be honest. But for those who don't know, only 2 of these 3 enemies will spawn on any given world, and the giant Shelly was the auto out on our main world. I decided to take care of it now because it would be awfully anticlimactic if we left the giant Shelly banner for last. Hey, there it is. Giant Shelly. Chat. There is 1 item left. And it's the item that I've been searching for the past 12 hours. If I wanted to, I could finish this challenge right now by booting up that Get Fixed Boy world and buying it from the princess. But we've come this far and I wasn't about to quit now. The chill debuff is so annoying. Honestly, if they remove the chill debuff, I'd probably go there a lot more, but my god, is that debuff. Suck. It's over. It's over. Yes! We did it! Hold on. Teragrim? Boom! 100%. Okay. I believe this is every single item in the entirety of Terraria. All 5,400 something items. It's all here. And it only took 72 hours. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.